I have a question. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? It's an age-old question, a dilemma that originates from us delving into the realm of causality. Was there a chicken that laid an egg, therefore caused it to happen? Or did the egg predate it, since there would be no chicken without an egg? There are a few resolutions to this question, but they don't really matter. That's because the question itself, the infinite loop it forms, is the subject of interest. Of course, this dilemma pops up in other places as well, whenever we fail to discern which of two events caused the other to take effect. Is John Doe smart because he went to Harvard, or did he go to Harvard because he was smart? Do some people become alcoholics because they were predisposed to it, or did they develop the predisposition when they took up drinking? A lot of causality dilemmas are solvable when the right logic and data is applied to them. For Mr. Doe to have been accepted into Harvard, he'd have had to excel at school, and a solid amount of intelligence is required for that achievement. We can then safely deduce that his intelligence caused his enrollment into university. Research has shown that 50 to 60% of alcoholics were genetically predisposed to the illness. Yet that leaves a possible 50% left to environmental reasons. And even those susceptible to the illness had outside factors exacerbate their likelihood of succumbing to it. The answer then falls mostly on the drinker's decisions and exposure. I'm guessing you see a pattern shaping up here. There is no real dilemma, there is only an illusion, one that is easily broken once we gather enough information. That may be right for most of these quandaries, but some of them seem to perpetually elude our rationale. How about this one? Which came first, the movie pushing an idea on us, or the idea itself? Well, the answer to that is much harder than it seems. And it starts with our childhood. Welcome to the show. If I go back to what I recall from my preteens or even my very first memories as a child, some of them feature my family, others have important, at least to 7-year-old me, events, while another set contains seemingly mundane activities that somehow found their way over from my brain's RAM to my hard drive. These memories seem innocuous at first, but when I look closer at them, they all seem to include something in common. They all have a movie, book, show, game, whatever that somehow, some way impressed me or resonated with me. I'm sure I didn't understand a lot of the media I consumed back then, as I was raised by a family that doesn't really care about content ratings, and so I watched a lot of stuff not geared towards me. But still, as a kid, watching stuff I could barely understand, I gathered something from these experiences, even if it was wrong, that stuck with me, enough to make my brain remember it to this day. I can't imagine, therefore, the other slew of content I watched that influenced me greatly but didn't end up featuring in my highlight of memories for one reason or the other. Where I'm going with this is that if I were to make a movie today, I would draw from my experiences to write a compelling script. In doing that, I would be taking inspiration, knowingly or unknowingly, from some other works that shaped the way I think. So then, is it the movie that brought the idea first? Well, it sure seems like it, but I could just as well ask, well, what about those same movies that influenced a younger me to have my ideas? They were created from a mind or two. Doesn't that mean the idea came first? But where did they get their ideas? You see, it can quickly turn into an endless loop, similar to the chicken and egg problem. Only this time it really is almost impossible to discern which came first, especially if we broaden the medium from movies to any form of recording or art in history. It becomes a question of who had the first original thought. Did consciousness emerge at a certain point, or did it gradually form throughout mankind? If so, when was the point in which we switched to that state? We're now treading in other waters again. We meet the ship of Theseus. Let's refrain from this digression though, because a few moments ago I touched upon the underlying subject of this whole video. That being the originality of thoughts, and whether any of us can truly claim to own our ideas. The topic in itself is, fittingly, not new, and experts in psychology and social studies tried their best at coming up with an answer to it. Some of them even did an amazing job, but for me, as with a lot of things, I think it beneficial to tackle the problem from a philosophical lens, since the latter is so intertwined with thought itself. If we take a look at prehistory and see some of the very first recordings of human thought, cave paintings of animals and simple tools, we notice that humans of that time, while crafting these tools and painting these images, took inspiration from their environment and went on to form philosophies and religions based on their interpretations of said environment. We conclude that no thought is truly original, or rather that all thought is derivative. We often downplay AI that amasses huge databases to produce almost anything you ask of it, saying it is only copying what prior humans have made. But in a way, aren't we the same? Don't we get inspired by our experiences and that of others, creating art or science from it, maybe injecting our touch into it? An apt name for other inspiration we just couldn't remember the source of. Well, perhaps it's human-centric of me to think so, but I find it profoundly different to purely attach thousands of sources together with surgical precision to create an end result, the way AI does, as opposed to the human process, laden with flaws, a Swiss cheese memory, and our inherent biases in interpreting the world. The former method is objectively superior for scientific needs, but I can't help but feel a cold, unmoving sense when contemplating AI art. It feels soulless, as if there was no intention behind it, no hidden message, no humanity. That's because, well, there isn't. The only trace we can find is in the rare flaws we stumble upon in its art, often attributed to a lack of optimization or biased data, both of these being very human errors. There is a certain imperfection, passion, and purpose belonging only to human art that is impossible for a machine to emulate, so long as it isn't conscious, because those things require the artist to own their thoughts, not have them planted as instructions. But of what value are these human traits in art? Can we even discern them when not priorly informed of which piece is human-made and which isn't? The Turing test, or imitation game, as coined by its creator Alan Turing in 1950, is a test of the ability of a machine to emulate intelligent behavior indistinguishable from that of a human. The evaluation consists of a human subject partaking in written conversation with two parties, one human, the other machine. The task is on the subject to determine if a given response has been written by a human or the machine. There have been many variations and improvements on the Turing test, but they all cover the same question. Can machines think? And are we able to tell the difference between human thought and artificial intelligence? A lot of times in these tests, the subjects are not reliably able to tell the difference, and that is going to be the case more and more as technology progresses. But you see, I don't agree with the notion that being incapable of discerning the difference between human and AI art makes passion, purpose, and imperfection meaningless. Those aspects are still crucial to appreciating art, and even if you weren't able to know at first, will always be interested in the reason an artist created something, the how and why of it. It's the way we connect with each other. Art is first and foremost a form of expression, and so long as AI hasn't yet reached the threshold of consciousness, authentic expression is purely human, however valuable that may be. Where does that leave us then? Of what intrinsic value are our thoughts if they aren't even truly our own? What is the point of art if it can be commodified to such an industrial scale? It seems that soon, only a laughable minority of people will be able to live off their work, leaving the crushing majority a casualty of the steamroller that is automation. I truly never expected this to be a danger that a world so human and subjective such as the art world would ever be concerned by. Then again, the wheel of capitalism never stops turning, at least in theory. There is reason to be hopeful, however. We humans are in no way creatures of reason, and the artistic universe exists first and foremost because we exist. Going off that notion, the need to create will be there so long as we stay living. We will continue to produce art because, as the late Robin Williams put it in Dead Poets Society, poetry, beauty, romance, love.
These are what we stay alive for. To quote from Whitman, "O me, O life of the questions of these recurring, of the endless trains of the faithless, of cities filled with the foolish, what good amid these, O me, O life?" Answer, that you are here, that life exists and identity, that the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. That the powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?
This has been Internet Victim. Signing off.
Boy out of Southern Illinois, coming down home country boy. He's gonna make it in the city, playing guitar in the studio. Oh well, he hadn't been there an hour when he met a Broadway flower. You know she took him for his mother.